All right, Commanders Nation, this is a big one, so settle in, because we are diving deep into the complete transformation happening inside the Washington Commanders organization right now. 7. Count them, 7. Major reinforcements are completely reshaping the identity of this football team, and it's all part of a calculated, deliberate vision from General Manager Adam Peters. But that's not even the wildest part of this story. We are also going to break down the truly bizarre rumor that took over Commanders' Twitter this preseason involving star running back Rachaad White, a mysterious injury, and yes, an actual ice bucket. If you've ever wondered how fast internet speculation can spiral completely out of control, wait until you hear this one. So if you're new here, welcome to Commanders Focus. Smash that subscribe button right now. We are chasing 2,000 subscribers, and this is exactly the kind of deep, juicy breakdown you're going to want to stick around for. Let's get into it. Let's start with the big picture, because to really understand why this offseason mattered so much, you have to understand what went wrong the year before. Washington entered last season riding high off an NFC Championship appearance, and the front office made a very specific bet. They leaned heavily on proven, established veterans, banking on experience to carry this team over the top. Instead, they won just 5 games. Injuries absolutely gutted this roster, sure, but there was something deeper going on too, a lack of fresh legs, a lack of renewal. A roster that had quietly gotten a little too comfortable. And Adam Peters, to his credit, didn't try to spin it or make excuses. He looked at what happened and completely restructured his approach. Instead of running it back with the same names, Peters pivoted hard towards something different. Young, athletic, hungry players who have something to prove. Mixed in strategically with a handful of veteran signings to plug specific gaps. The mission isn't just about competing this year. It's about building something that keeps getting better for years to come. And you know what? Early preseason returns suggest this thing might actually be working. There's more speed showing up on tape on both sides of the football. Players look like they're playing with real urgency, like they've genuinely got something to prove every single snap. The energy around this team has shifted, and as a fan watching all of this unfold, that alone brings some real hope. Because Washington desperately needed to stop coasting on familiar names and start building something sustainable. So let's break down exactly who these 7 reinforcements are and why each one of them represents a very specific piece of Adam Peters' master plan. First up, outside linebacker Kavon Chaisson. Here's a name that deserves way more attention than it's gotten so far, because the backstory here is genuinely fascinating. Chaisson actually turned down a more financially secure offer from the New Orleans Saints to sign a 1-year deal with Washington instead. That's a legitimate bet on himself, folks. He understood that Washington could offer him a real, tangible opportunity to rebuild his value heading into next offseason, and based on everything we've seen from him this summer. That decision is looking smarter by the day. Remember, this is a former first-round pick out of LSU, and he has quickly carved out a prominent role in Dorrance Jones's aggressive front 7 scheme, lining up alongside the team's other big free agent pass rusher addition. Chaisson has been using pure speed and aggression to consistently attack blockers off the edge. Yes, he's been managing a knee issue throughout camp, but there's no real indication that it's anything serious, and his presence has been a huge reason why this pass rush has suddenly started drawing legitimate attention around the league. If he can get back to the level he showed with the New England Patriots not too long ago, Washington could genuinely have 2 completely different flavors of pass rusher wreaking havoc on opposing quarterbacks, one built on pure power and explosiveness, the other built on speed and gap-shooting suddenness. That's the kind of combination that forces quarterbacks into rushed, panicked decisions. That's the kind of combination that wins football games in December. Next up, cornerback Amik Robertson, who might represent this new competitive identity better than anybody else on the roster. Washington needed players who were going to compete on every single snap without exception, and Robertson has brought exactly that kind of relentless energy since the moment he walked into the building. His signing honestly generated some mixed reactions at first from the fan base, but that skepticism has evaporated fast once people actually started watching him play. This guy communicates at a high level, competes aggressively for the football, and has shown zero signs of being intimidated by the responsibility of helping organize a secondary. And here's the thing. With fellow cornerback Trey Amos battling injury and only managing to complete one full practice this entire preseason, Robertson's opportunity has expanded even faster than anticipated. It's not an ideal situation by any means, losing a key piece like Amos to injury during camp, but Robertson has seized the moment in front of him. Dorrance Jones wants to run an aggressive, versatile defensive scheme, and Robertson's mentality fits that vision like a glove. Then there's the offense's big splash addition, tight end Chig Okonkwo. This might be Adam Peters' boldest offensive bet of the entire offseason, with David Blau now running the offensive coordination in a scheme that leans heavily on tight end usage. And with a previous tight end departing to open up that role, the Commanders went out and made Okonkwo one of the richest additions of their entire offseason. A 3-year deal worth $27 million, including a $7 million bonus and nearly $17 million guaranteed. That is a massive financial investment. And it tells you exactly how much this front office believes in what this player can become inside this offense. He flashed real talent during his time with the Tennessee organization, but never fully reached his ceiling there. In Washington, the situation looks far more favorable. This is a tight end with legitimate size, real acceleration, sharp route running ability, and dangerous production after the catch, and reports out of camp suggest his blocking is genuinely better than most people realize. Most importantly, the chemistry between Okonkwo and Jaden Daniels has reportedly been building steadily throughout camp, with real understanding developing between the two of them in practice reps. Think about the ripple effect this creates. When Stephon Diggs and Terry McLaurin are pulling defenders and quarterback attention away from the middle of the field, that opens up exactly the kind of space where a dynamic tight end can feast. David Blough can use that natural space to create quick, high-percentage completions, easy yards after the catch, and drives that simply keep moving the chains forward. For a team that desperately needs to support its young quarterback with easy, reliable options, this partnership could end up being an absolutely crucial piece of the offensive puzzle. Moving to the back end of the defense, safety Nick Cross addresses a really obvious hole that opened up when Washington let Jeremy Chin walk in free agency and never quite found anybody who could replicate that same defensive energy and physicality. Peters didn't overreact or overspend to fix this. He made a smart, targeted addition in Cross, a safety out of Maryland who finished among the very best in the entire league last season, specifically in run defense impact. There are still some fair questions about his coverage ability in space, but the roster around him has gotten significantly stronger, which should help mask some of those concerns. What Cross brings to the table is the ability to play up near the line of scrimmage, anticipate blocking schemes before they fully develop, and attack ball carriers with real aggression. Throughout camp, he's reportedly shown sharp instincts and the ability to diagnose plays before they've even fully unfolded. That physical, downhill presence was genuinely missing from this defense at multiple points last season, and his arrival could give this entire unit a noticeably different personality heading into the year. Next, we've got veteran cornerback Russell Douglas, who provides exactly the kind of experienced ballast a roster full of young talent needs. Douglas signed a modest 1-year deal that could max out around $3.8 million with incentives, hardly a blockbuster contract, but a smart, low-risk depth signing. He's tall, physically strong, and comfortable playing both man and zone coverage, which matters enormously for a coordinator like Dorrance Jones, who wants to disguise coverages and shift alignments right up until the snap. And given the uncertainty around Trey Amos's health and readiness, Douglas becomes an even more valuable insurance policy. If the young cornerback isn't quite ready to handle a full starting workload right out of the gate, Douglas can step in and absorb a bigger role without forcing the coaching staff into any major scheme changes. Nobody's pretending Douglas is the long-term answer at the position, but as a stabilizing presence while Washington continues developing its younger pieces. His experience is going to carry real value across the grind of a full 16-plus game season. And then, of course, there's the name every single Commanders fan already knows, rookie linebacker Sonny Styles, who rounds out this group of impactful new additions. After longtime veteran Bobby Wagner's departure, Washington needed to find a linebacker capable of stepping into a real leadership and playmaking role for years to come, and they went out and selected Styles 7th overall in this year's draft. His athletic testing numbers were downright historic, but as always, with young linebackers, the far more important question is whether that elite physical talent translates into consistently correct split-second decision-making at NFL speed. Styles, a product of Ohio State, is still very much learning to process the game at this dramatically faster professional tempo. One rough early performance generated some seriously exaggerated reactions across social media. But here's the important part. The coaching staff hasn't lost 1 ounce of confidence in him. He still needs to sharpen his reads, his angles, and his communication at the position, but he clearly possesses every tool necessary to become a foundational piece of this defense for years to come. Adam Peters isn't just building for this Sunday. He's building for the next decade, and Styles is very much a part of that long-term vision. All right, real quick, before we move on to arguably the single most talked about pass rusher edition of this entire offseason, this is your reminder, and I'll keep it short. If you're finding real value in these deep, detailed Commanders breakdowns, please take 2 seconds and hit that subscribe button. We are working hard to reach 2,000 subscribers on this channel, and every single one of you watching right now has the power to help us get there. Drop a like, too, if you're enjoying this one. It genuinely helps more than you'd think. Okay, back to the breakdown, because we've saved arguably the biggest name for last. The pass rusher known simply as OE was the signing that made Adam Peters' entire offseason vision crystal clear to everybody watching. After last season, Peters came right out and publicly stated that Washington needed to generate significantly more pressure on opposing quarterbacks, no more relying on scheme and hope alone. So he went out and made an enormous financial commitment, signing this dominant edge rusher to a 4-year deal worth $96 million, including a $26 million signing bonus and a staggering $68 million guaranteed. Some analysts around the league raised eyebrows at that price tag, sure. But this franchise has made it clear they will happily accept that cost if the production on the field justifies the investment. And through joint practices this preseason, including a genuinely dominant showing against the Miami Dolphins, where he created real problems for opposing offensive tackles, it's looking like that investment might pay off in a big way. He's currently managing a minor calf issue, but if he's healthy and available come Week 1, this Penn State product has all the makings of becoming one of the single biggest problems opposing offenses have to prepare for all season long. This defense needed a true game wrecker, a player capable of single-handedly altering an opponent's entire offensive game plan, and everything we've seen so far suggests he's more than ready to fill that exact role. So step back and look at the full picture here. 7 completely different additions, each addressing a completely different, specific need. Speed off the edge, competitive toughness in the secondary, dynamic playmaking at tight end, physicality against the run, steady professional experience at cornerback, long-term upside at linebacker, and a true difference-making force rushing the passer. This isn't just a general manager throwing money and draft picks at a roster hoping something sticks. This is a calculated, deliberate vision coming together in real time right in front of our eyes. Now let's pivot to that wild subplot we teased at the top of this video, because honestly, this one is just too good not to cover in full. As all this reinforcement buzz was building steam, running back Rachaad White suddenly became a major topic of conversation for a completely different, far more chaotic reason. White missed a handful of practices due to an injury that initially went completely undisclosed to the public. And you know exactly what happens when NFL insiders and fans are left in an information vacuum like that. The internet immediately went into overdrive, cooking up increasingly ridiculous theories to explain what happened. And somehow, someway, a theory involving an actual bucket of ice started gaining real traction online. Some fans genuinely speculated that White might have injured himself during some kind of prank gone wrong, or possibly during an ice bath mishap. It got serious enough that a respected injury analyst even posted a public prediction guessing at a possible groin strain. For a fan base that has admittedly seen its fair share of bizarre, unexpected news over the years, this rumor felt absurd on its face, but given everything Commanders fans have lived through, not entirely impossible either. So what actually happened? Turns out, the real explanation was refreshingly mundane. Respected NFL insiders reported that White simply suffered a thigh injury during a joint practice session against the Miami Dolphins, with the discomfort reportedly first showing up the week before. And crucially, the organization never viewed this as a serious or long-term issue at any point. There was no mysterious ice bucket incident, no bizarre off-field mishap, just a completely ordinary soft tissue injury that happens constantly during the physically demanding, high-contact stretch of training camp. In fact, White was reportedly even healthy enough that he could have played in the preseason opener, but Washington made the smart, conservative call to manage his workload and keep him fresh for the season ahead, rather than risk anything unnecessary. And that caution makes complete sense when you look at the full running back room. This position group had already absorbed a tough blow with Jerome Ford landing on season-ending injured reserve, while Jeremy McNichols has also been dealing with his own injury concerns. Washington simply cannot afford to lose its primary receiving back option for an extended stretch on top of everything else happening in that room. White's specific role matters enormously because of how well he complements the team's other lead back, while that other back provides more raw power and physicality on early down runs. White brings real value in pass protection and as a trusted safety valve outlet for Jaden Daniels in obvious passing situations. Lose him for any real length of time, and this offense instantly loses a critical layer of variety. Thankfully, the update everybody wanted arrived on Thursday. Rachaad White returned to practice. That return is a genuinely encouraging sign that this injury was managed properly and that the rest period did exactly what it was supposed to do. And for what it's worth, even if that ridiculous ice bucket rumor had somehow contained a shred of truth, White would already be fully recovered and moving forward regardless. But the real story here, a common thigh injury managed smartly and conservatively by a cautious coaching staff, is honestly a lot more reassuring than any wild internet rumor could ever be. White's return also takes some real pressure off two young running backs who had been thrust into bigger roles out of necessity. Both rookies have shown real flashes worth getting excited about. One displaying legitimate breakaway speed and sharp cutting ability, the other showing real physical strength and reliability specifically in tough short yardage situations. With White back in the fold, the coaching staff can now evaluate this entire running back room far more evenly without the pressure of an emergency workload situation clouding the picture. That kind of layered depth is exactly the offensive byproduct of Adam Peters' new team-building strategy. In years past, a single injury at a key position could leave this roster dangerously thin. Now, young players are stepping up and legitimately proving they belong, which allows a veteran like White to avoid unnecessary wear and tear across a long, grueling season. That balance, spreading the workload intelligently across multiple capable bodies, is precisely what a genuinely deep, sustainable offense is built on. And that same layered depth philosophy applies directly to the defensive side of the football, too. with all 5 of those defensive reinforcements we just broke down providing exactly this kind of valuable insurance. Injuries are always going to be part of this brutal sport. There is simply no way around that reality in the NFL. But the actual goal isn't eliminating every single injury risk. It's building a roster deep enough and talented enough that no single absence derails an entire unit's ability to function. And based on everything we've seen so far, Adam Peters appears to have genuinely built exactly that kind of prepared, next-man-up roster heading into this season. Of course, the real test is still ahead of us. All this August enthusiasm and preseason buzz means absolutely nothing if it doesn't translate into real, tangible production once the games actually start counting. The pass rush needs to consistently get home. The tight end connection with Jaden Daniels needs to keep solidifying into a real, reliable weapon. The rookie linebacker needs to keep developing at the pace this coaching staff clearly believes he can. The new safety addition needs to prove those coverage question marks are manageable rather than exploitable. And Rachaad White, more than anything, simply needs to stay healthy and provide the exact kind of offensive versatility this team is counting on. As a fan watching all of this unfold, it's genuinely hard not to get excited about the energy radiating off this new-look roster. This franchise looks faster. It looks more competitive. It looks far more willing to honestly confront and correct last year's mistakes instead of making excuses. There are still real risks lurking here, especially considering how quickly a seemingly minor injury situation can spiral into a full-blown crisis at an already thin position. But Washington's response throughout this entire process has been genuinely responsible, managing Rachaad White's recovery carefully, refusing to rush him back before he was truly ready, and ultimately preventing an unfounded, ridiculous internet rumor from spiraling into real organizational panic. So here's the big question hanging over this entire Commanders season, Commanders Nation. Will this incredible off-season energy actually hold up once the lights come on and the games start mattering for real? If that big money pass rusher and Chason keep generating consistent pressure off the edge, if Sonny Styles continues developing at a rapid pace, if Chig Okonkwo becomes the dominant middle-of-the-field weapon this coaching staff envisions, and if Rachaad White stays healthy and available all season long, this Washington team could have a genuinely different identity than anything we've seen from this franchise in years. Is Adam Peters' complete roster overhaul finally going to deliver the sustained consistency this fan base has been starving for? Or is all of this positive preseason buzz simply another promise that still needs to be proven once the real football begins? That's exactly what we're going to be tracking all season long right here on this channel. If you made it all the way to the end of this one, seriously, thank you. That means a lot. Do me a favor before you go, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel more than you'd think. And drop a comment down below letting me know which one of these 7 reinforcements you're most excited about heading into the season. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We are on a real mission to hit 2,000 subscribers on this channel, and with your help, we are going to get there. Every single subscriber, every single like, every single comment pushes this channel one step closer to becoming the ultimate home for Washington Commanders coverage. So don't wait, subscribe right now, and I will see you in the next one. Hail to the Commanders.